She put a pot on she hair and gone. Them a the first one out on the dam. Basket on she head, bucket in each hand. Hold up on she frock, I wanna she grandson. To the market, them a go. For the morning, the day is dawning. For cock-a-crow to give the villagers a warning. Rise and shine, the birds them a sing. All animal take turn as them join in the waking. Cock-a-crow, dog-a-bark, donkey bray, horse and they even duck-a-quack. Cock-a-crow, dog-a-bark, donkey bray, horse and they even duck-a-quack. Come and hear this sweet story that tell the people about life in the country. All day I back down, me now I come home. The naga jackass yard for fetchy load. Cockle shy hand, bag over shoulder, running by his side, a Rexy and Rover. From the farm, them a come. Sun a go down but up the river. Some washing clothes, some folks are bathing at the water. Fisherman, they catch them a bring. From a canoe boat, man, them start offloading. Aymara, Kwakwari, Hail Baka Kuma Kuma, even Lokonani. Aymara, Kwakwari, Hail Baka Kuma Kuma, even Bangameri. Listen to this sweet story that tell the people about life in the country. Them children glad when the weekend come. Out in the yard, them all gather round. Some a play catcher, some making house from straw. Two who come later, a grandma or grandpa. All a sit down just a wait. Moonlight so bright, it's just the right time to listen story or to say a little nursery rhyme.
All right, hey, guess what? Good afternoon to all of you. It is something that I have been forced to do. Of course, not necessarily against my will, kind of like a friendly forcing, mind you. You know what I mean. I was told by the producers of Benchop Radio, management that is, that we should toy around a little with this sort of chit-chat, a midday chit-chat with you. And so we are planning on coming up with a name for this midday chit-chat, whether it should be a midday chit-chat, whether we should have any chit-chat at all, or we should just wait until you get to see my face on Straight Up every evening. We are also looking for news reporters. So if you know of a news reporter in beautiful Guyana who wants to read the news and so forth and be part of our programming, feel free to recommend that person. Hardworking, dedicated and passionate individual who would like to be part of our news team on the ground, because we want to be able to get some reporters, we want to get some investigative style reporters, so that we can make this radio station better for all of you. So share the link and have people know that I pop into your homes as a surprise, and you, in your cars, in your minibuses, wherever you are around Georgetown, outside of Georgetown. Good afternoon to all of you. All right, so what's in the news and what we want to talk about to begin with? Of course, hello, all of you again. To begin with, I'd like to possibly start with a young man who's currently in jail, in a filthy jail cell out in Russia, in Moscow. His name is Sean Pike. Let's get that photograph of Mr. Pike. Mr. Pike is is a Guyanese. He's also, I believe, a citizen of Russia, but he spent most of his time in Guyana. He went to university in Russia. He is fluent in Russian, sorry. His wife is Russian. His children are Russians. And I recall Mr. Pike as a little boy growing up. Um, he's not, I don't think he's originally from the quarantine, but he spent some time in the village of, well, several villages, but I can speak of Philippi, where he visited his relatives there, and we would play cricket and marbles and so forth. Mr. Sean Pike is, I believe, an engineer by profession. I believe that's what it is. But I also know that he is a Jehovah's Witness. And out in Moscow, he's a practicing Jehovah's Witness, along with his wife and his children. And I see nothing wrong with that. And so he has been doing that for years in Russia. But just recently, we have read in the news, maybe 2 years or 3 years ago, that the Russians have been picking up persons who are Jehovah's Witnesses and locking them up and expelling some of them out of the country. And for some reason, they may have now gotten to Mr. Pike to lock him up along with some other elders and other brothers of the Kingdom Hall in Moscow. And so what they did, they separated them. Mr. Sean Pike, who happens to be this guy, a black guy, his jail cell is separate from his white counterparts. And so they put him in the regular population with the other prisoners, a filthy, filthy area, according to the news. His matter comes up sometime maybe mid this month. And as we all know by now that the regime in Guyana has been very silent on this matter, so silent that they haven't seen it fit to utter a word, not a single word, about Mr. Sean Pike's situation. Nothing at all. This question was asked by the, about what the opposition is doing, the coalition, APNU, AFC, what exactly are they doing about this situation? Well, we all know that some folks might ask, what can they really do other than to say something publicly? Have they said something publicly? If they did, maybe I missed that. But from my recollection, they have said absolutely nothing, the same as the installed regime. So the coalition, if those who are responsible for saying something about this young man's current position out there, his predicament in Moscow, in that filthy jail cell, hopefully someone in the opposition will and can say something. Just let me know if you're hearing me loud and clear. Like I've said, this is just a midday impromptu something that we're playing around with. So let me know if you're hearing me loud and clear. I want you guys to be able to get this few minutes with you. I've given you guys some bits and pieces as what's in the news. Thank you so much, Paulette Hicks. So back to Mr. Sean Pike. It's something that I want to do. I want to be able to get in touch with maybe individuals who can shed some light on this situation, since the people out in Guyana, the government or the installed regime, is quiet on this matter. Hi, Asante. Thank you so much. I notice you guys, Lucy Wilberg and everyone, Deborah Jones. Like I said, it's an impromptu something. So somebody's complaining about when they touch the screen and they touch this and they touch emoji. And hi, Marla Alicock, how are you? Nice to see you guys here. Folks are still complaining about Facebook. And now here's a comment from Winston Jacobs. Winston Jacobs is entitled to his opinion, but the facts are different. Winston Jacobs is saying here, I think if you know a country is against you practicing religion in their country, you should avoid going there and do that. It's sad to hear about this, and I'm praying for his safe return. I hope others will follow and stop doing that. Stop going to people country and go against what they hate. And I'll have a problem with this particular statement. He's assuming that Mr. Sean Pike has done something wrong. He's assuming that Mr. Sean Pike went out and did something totally against what the Russian authorities are saying. And that's not the case at all. In fact, Mr. Sean Pike and others respect the law, and that's just what they've been doing. However, I'm sure, because I'm seeing Mr. Winston Jacobs in hoodie and all these sort of things, albeit people all the way in Blackbush Pola have on hoodies, people all the way in Kokwani, Aichuni get hoodies and stuff. But let's assume that Mr. Winston Jacobs is outside of Guyana, maybe in the US, Canada, or the UK. There are many things that were wrong with laws in the US, but yet people were able to defy those laws, those rules, sorry. Take, for example, back in the civil rights days when there were black and white water fountains, and those things were illegal. Take, for instance, example, there were laws, segregation. Those things were illegal. So not because a law or a government says that something is illegal means you got to put your hands up and just surrender, right? If these folks are Jehovah's Witnesses, then they have every right to practice their religion, regardless of where they are. And no government should infringe on that right. And so there was no way that Mr. Sean Pike disobeyed whatever it is, but the authorities know that he's a Jehovah's Witness. And like I have said in the beginning, that they just went about now to arrest him. And that's all that I'm saying. So I know some of you will come with, well, if you know a country law says this, well, follow the law. If a law is illegal, well, it has to be challenged. That's all. You can't put your hands up and just surrender and say, oh, that's it, you just surrender. But I get your point, though, Mr. Jacobs. I don't necessarily agree with it. But we are basically calling for the release of Mr. Sean Pike. He ought to be released. He has not committed any crime, none whatsoever. So let us see here. Let me try to get in touch with the Russian embassy, so you guys can hear. And let's confront this situation. Thanks, Miss Daly, for saying I haven't gotten in touch with his father recently, Sean, that is. Are we trying to get in touch with the Russian embassy? Hopefully they're going to answer, hopefully. All right, sorry about that. We missed that again. We will try one more time, another number, to find out what is happening with Sean Pike. And we're doing this because it is something that the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Hugh Todd, and others should be doing. It is sad, very sad.
Thank you for calling me. This is Anton. How can I help?
Yeah, sorry about that. I thought I was on to the Russian embassy, but I'm not. I may have misdialed. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions, though? I mean, if because they might not pick up always.
Yeah, I realized that they're not picking up. I just called the New York consulate. I was calling.
Do you prefer to speak Russian or English?
Привет, как дела?
Я говорю по-русски.
По-русски не
also speak English.
Oh, you do speak English. So we.
То есть, если у вас какие-то вопросы есть, может быть, просто можем помочь и вас направить в правильном направлении.
Exactly. So we will definitely speak English since my Russian is not that much.
Yeah, sure.
But thank you so much, though. I don't know if it's something that you can answer. My name is Mark Benchop, and I'm calling from 107.1 FM. It's a radio station based in Guyana, South America.
Okay.
And I just want to ask concerning a citizen of Guyana who's also a Russian citizen by the name of Sean Pike, who has been jailed because of his faith, being a Jehovah's Witness.
In Russia?
In Russia, yeah, Moscow.
Okay.
So I just wanted some answers as to why such harsh sentence, jail sentence.
I see. Yeah. So we're actually not affiliated with Russia. I just wanted to see what your problem is so that maybe we could direct you to the government agency. Ourselves are not even, we're a U.S. company. We just help people get visas to Russia.
Yeah, so I just probably would get in touch with the Washington embassy of the...
probably it's best to get in touch with the embassy. Also, to see if you could get in touch with like the local authorities in Russia too. If
definitely. I'll do that. But thank you so much for your time, though. Appreciate it.
The Ministry of the Interior, I believe it's handled through the Ministry of the Interior, like a lot of the criminal matters.
True that. Yep.
And we tried the Embassy, Ministry of the Interior, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, obviously as well from Russia, and also the Embassy of Guyana in Russia too. They're supposed to defend. He's a dual Guyanese.
Dual. Get it?
Yeah. The problem is also Russia would consider him a Russian citizen in Russia. So he, first and foremost, there's very limited. What Guyana can do is quite limited. So he would have to be specifically. You would have to look at the Russian criminal code in that situation, and but sometimes they may be able to provide assistance as well by the embassy, even if he's a dual citizen.
Thank you so much, Joe, for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, good luck with everything.
Thank you.
I hope it goes well.
That's helpful. Yeah. All right, that's it. All we're trying to do is to get to the bottom of things. We just want to find out what's happening with this citizen, Mr. Sean Pike. As you know, Sean Pike is, according to Miss Yvonne Daly, he has been sentenced to 2 months in prison. 2 months in prison. Not a word from the installed regime of Guyana. Not a single word from those individuals. So, but one of the things that I may want to do is to ask our operator, Lemon, to get in touch with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Guyana, that is, and you know how we love to say Guyana, right? To find out what's going on with Mr. Sean Pike and whether they have made any contact with their with his counterpart there in Guyana. And I'm speaking of Mr. Hugh Todd. I'm not sure whether Mr. Todd is going to be able to answer these questions concerning Sean Pike, who I'm told has been sentenced to 2 months. Somebody's saying that Russian citizens are usually sentenced for years. You know, it all depends on maybe the individual as well. But, you know, 2 months is still a little harsh for someone who is basically practicing his religion. And I have noticed some comments, yes, that doesn't necessarily mirror mine. And I don't mind people disagreeing with me at all, but I take a different view. I do feel that it is wrong to persecute people because of their religious beliefs, especially in the year 2021. I take umbrage to that. And so it's not like Mr. Pike committed any crime, any serious offense. He should not have been found guilty. He should not have been convicted. He should not be sitting in a jail cell even as we speak. And not just a jail cell, but a filthy jail cell. As you know, earlier we try to get on to the Russian authority I don't know if those folks in Guyana, be it the opposition or the installed regime, were able to get on to the folks, the Russian embassy there. I just don't know. What else is there? What else is there for us to discuss? What else is there for us to talk about? I don't know. Maybe we should find something else to talk about, right? What is happening? Can we get Sam Hinds, who is the ambassador there in Washington? Let's see.
Regular session 11/2018.
Hello.
Well, hello, Mr. Hinds. How are you?
Hello, who's speaking there?
Hi, this is Mark Benshop. How are you?
Special session.
Sorry, hold on. I have a virtual meeting going on. Okay, I think I'm away from the TV now. Yes.
I just need a quick comment from you, a quick minute on 107.1 FM concerning the citizen out there in Russia, Mr. Sean Pike. Have you been communicating with your counterpart concerning Sean Pike and his incarceration?
It's not a matter that has reached my attention as yet, but I would follow up Mr. Sean Pike.
Yes, sir.
In Russia?
Yeah, he's currently.
What's the issue?
What
was the story with him?
The issue is, Mr. Hinds, is that he has been sentenced to 2 months in prison just for being a Jehovah's Witness.
Just for being a Jehovah's Witness?
Yes, sir.
And is that the usual story in Russia?
I don't know whether that's the usual story or not, but
Is that the standard law in Russia?
I'm not sure whether it's the standard law or not, but as a citizen,
I think it would be an important consideration whether it is the standard law in Russia, which is so there is not discrimination against him, and secondly, then there's the other issue that one might raise about freedom of religion and so on. So, but I will seek to find out, and the name is Mr. John Pike.
His name is Sean Pike. Sean Pike. Sean Pike. Yeah.
Okay.
So quickly, I know you have your meeting there, but how are you settling down as ambassador?
Oh, not bad. I'm getting into it.
I'm
getting into it. And who is it that I'm speaking with? I'm not sure I recognize the person here.
Holy smoke! I thought I identified myself. Mark Benshop.
Oh, it's Mark?
Yeah.
Mark, how come you're joining up with Mr. What's his name there in Brooklyn and New York, saying all sorts of untrue, terrible things about us, and then threatening to give my successor, Mr. Phillips, a very warm welcome. Not a warm embrace, but maybe fire even.
But let me ask you this though, because people are indeed upset about the way in which African Guyanese are treated in Guyana.
Well, I think it has always been an issue for me, an issue of our expectations. No doubt a lot of our people expected that we were there before. In fact, many people have told me straight, some of my good friends have told me straight, we were here first. We made this place habitable. They just come. We are first citizens. Many people have told me that. So there is that issue. And on the one hand, I understand those feelings, but on the other hand, I have to say that those kind of feelings, maybe we Africans have to try and put behind us in the world of today.
But you don't feel that African Guyanese are being targeted or ill-treated?
As Africans, no, I don't think so. As Africans, I don't think so. I don't think so.
So when you look at the evidence in terms of the termination of hundreds, probably close to 3,000, mainly African public servants.
I'd like to know the numbers. We speak these things, but I'd like to know the numbers. I don't know about any 3,000. I know that when we came in 1992, Mr. Lewis, who was the Commissioner of Police, continued as Commissioner of Police. In fact, some people may feel that he soon had Comrade Janet under his wing. And Mr. Joe Singh, who was Chief of Staff of the GDF, continued. Very few persons were changed. And in most of those cases, I think a good case could be made of policy differences and inability to work with us, or maybe reluctance and refusal to work with us on our policy and our approaches.
But Mr. One second, Mr. Hinds, you haven't mentioned the fact that yes, Mr. Joe Singh stayed on. Yes, Mr. Larry Lewis stayed on as Commissioner of Police. But you didn't mention the fact that a bunch of diplomats and foreign service officers, because of their ethnicity, were terminated, including journalists at GBC and Chronicle and so forth.
They were terminated because then the percentage of foreign affairs spending in our budget was much too great for our situation. We were spending on foreign service more than on police, education, and health, to name just a few of them. We had a situation, Chief, where you can check with Mr. Brotherson, where basically, as Brotherson himself says, Mr. Burnham was putting money into foreign affairs, not much money, we didn't have country, didn't have much money, but he was putting an overwhelming amount of the overwhelming proportion of the money we had into foreign affairs then to try and establish some legitimacy. That was what was happening.
But I know what Mr. Brotherson said. I don't think that's what he meant entirely. But
and the policy was changed. People were brought back home, like I would be if I were there, and they brought back home, but they no longer had their location allowance. They were brought back home to the prevailing rates of pay in the public service at the time, and even as now. So I don't take the position that any of those guys were had.
Well, you know, Mr. Hinds, 1 second. We understand. I understand that you would never. 1 second. I understand that you would never take that position. You would never agree. I understand. But in your embassy there in Washington, I heard some of your senior staff are being sent packing as well.
Well, I can tell you that the policy position was taken that for those persons who were over 3 years in all throughout would be returned home, and new sets of people would be sent out. There would be the rotation. Now, it could be arguable whether rotation that was not done in the last 3-4 years or whatever, the rotation that was not done, whether you should do it all in one go. Some people will argue, yes, do it in all one go, get going. Some people might say to lengthen it out. Essentially, that is what is happening. The rotation that was not done over the last 3-4 years, for whatever reasons, maybe just lack of admin focus, it's being done now. Yes, and it being done in a method that some people may feel is not the way to go. I've read in management book, they say some people argue that when you have to make a big change, make it quickly. The quicker and it's done, the better, rather than drag it.
When will you guys send a when?
Getting back on the rotation schedule.
When will you guys have a consul general in New York?
I think it will happen in time. I know that it is being arranged. It will happen in time. It will happen in time.
And who is the person that's expected to be the next Consul General?
And also is workable with in terms of policy that they can live with. You know, sometimes there's policy that you can't live with. I remember in one time when we were in the office, we had a consultancy to come up with a program for raising water rates. And one of our black ladies got to somebody, got the job. And then afterwards, about 2-3 months later, she said, you know what, I am giving this job up, this consultancy up, because in my heart, I do not believe people should pay for potable water. And I think that was quite proper of her. It's quite proper of her.
Let me ask you this quickly before I allow you to go. I know you said you're in a meeting there, but were you able to get some successful meetings since you've been there as ambassador to Guyana's ambassador to the U.S.?
A meeting with whom?
Some of the top folks out there in Washington.
Yes, we've been having some meetings. I did meet with, said hello to Mr. Meeks.
One second. One second. Of course you will be allowed to say hello to Mr. Meeks, but continue.
Yes, I did get an opportunity to say hello to him at a reception held by the Inter-American Dialogue. So it was just a hello, a meet and greet in the cocktail period.
So, what are 5 things you'd like to achieve as ambassador to the U.S., Guyana's ambassador to the U.S.? 5 things.
What my job is and what is written. My job is here. I've been sent by President Ali to his good friend President Biden to represent President Ali and to take anything from President Biden back to President Ali, and that's my job.
Were you able to, because I'm not sure that President Biden and Mr. Ali are good friends, but were you able to champion the cause of Mr. Ali for the exportation of catfish?
I wasn't asked to. I wasn't requested to.
Oh, catfish. Okay, you weren't requested to. All right. What would you say if someone walks up to you and say that the government of Guyana is an installed government? What would be your reaction?
If somebody walk up to me and say that what?
That the PBP regime is installed. What would be your reaction?
Well, it means what? It depends on what they mean by installed. Every government in office could be considered an installed government, a government installed. If, however, you mean that we didn't win the election and all that attempt to rig by the PNCR group was not rigging, then I totally disagree with you. I totally reject what you say.
But
the PPC did not properly win the last election. I must totally reject what you say.
On what basis are you offering that rejection? On what basis? Is there any evidence?
On the basis, read what the various reports, the OAS report, read what the gentleman from Jamaica says, read what the now departed Owen Arthur said, read what the current Prime Minister of Barbados said. Read all those things.
But did you? Well, forget about them. I've read what they said. But have you guys read what came out of the recount process?
Mr. Benskar, everybody knew what the result was. That's why Mr. Mingo was carrying on with how he was carrying on. Everybody knew what the result was, man. We can't talk if we're gonna be able to pretend to be foolish.
No, we're not pretending. We're not pretending to be foolish at all, Mr. Hinds. The evidence that I have seen that came out of the recount process doesn't suggest to me that the coalition AP and UFC did anything of rigging. The 47 boxes on the East Coast lots of statutory documents and all of these things. And of course, the part where it seems as though the PPP doesn't want the elections petition to be heard. Come on, Mr. Hinds. Let's be honest. Come on.
We don't want the petition to be heard. Mr. Benchcraft, let us agree to disagree on this matter.
All right. Let us agree to disagree. But thank you so much for your time, though. Don't ever be a stranger.
Okay, then. All right.
Have a great day.
I'll follow on the gentleman in Russia.
Oh, yeah. Do follow up on that. He's suffering in jail. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, then. Bye-bye.
Oh, gosh. Well, you guys heard. You guys heard. I don't know what else to say. I honestly don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to do. I don't know if to laugh, if to cry, or I just don't know. I'm looking at some of your comments there. And I guess it is what it is, right? I guess today is my special lucky day. What do you guys thought? What are your thoughts on what Mr. Sam Hinds just said there? Somebody said I should drink a glass of water. I don't know. I don't know. Kind of throw me off track here now with some other proper things we have in mind. As I was talking earlier, I'm surprised though that I'm actually surprised that Mr. Sam Hinds, who is the ambassador, Guyana's ambassador to the United States, has never heard about this case, has never heard about Sean Pike being arrested. I don't know. He has never heard about this case. And it seems as though he was attempting to justify the incarceration of this citizen. I don't know. That's just the impression that I'm getting, that he was attempting to justify the incarceration of this man. To say that if there's a law in the country, then he should not be walking around sharing information or whatever. But that's not the case. The fact of the matter is that, as we heard from Mr. Sam Hinds, he has never heard about this man. He has never heard about the man's story. He has never heard that the man is sitting there in a cell in Russia, all because he's a Jehovah's Witness. That is all. So if somebody finds out that someone who's living in Russia happens to be a Jehovah's Witness, but they're not going out, they're not doing anything to break the law, but other than somebody snitched and say, you know, a Jehovah's Witness lives there, and then gonna go and run these individuals up and lock them down. And that's exactly what's happening. But I'm glad that Mr. Sam Hinds took time out from his busy schedule, busy schedule, to come and give us a few minutes of his time. Thank you, Mr. Samuel Hinds, the former Prime Minister of Guyana. He's now the Guyana's ambassador to Washington, to the U.S. And so far he has met, according to Mr. Hinds, he has met with Mr. Meeks, right? Congressman Meeks, a good friend of the PPP. So we're not surprised that he actually met with Congressman Meeks at all. All right, what else? What else is there for us to comment on? Like I said, it's just a midday something, we just gaffing, so to speak. Let's look at this here. According to the news out in Guyana, The economy grew, and I want you guys to look at that. The economy grew 14.5%. And now this is for the economists out there, that even in this pandemic period, the pandemic period was since last year. Jack J and Irfan, they cried and they complained, including Dr. Ashney Singh. They cried and they complained that the economy is very slow and that business is not booming, all because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But I'm saying all of this so that you guys can understand what this headline really means. This headline is not saying that, not because of the economy grew 14.5% means that it has anything to do with the PPP regime, the installed PPP regime. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing to do with it. The installed PPP regime. The economy grew as a result of what the APNU AFC did whilst in office. So if you do the math, if according to Jack Dio, Irfan, and Ashney Singh, that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the economy became sluggish for the past year. If the economy became sluggish, then the economy would not have been able to grow 14.5% under the installed PPP regime. So I just want you guys to know this, that a mid-year report, it is a mid-year report, it's called, and the gross domestic product, GDP, growth of 14.5%. And a lot of this ought to be credited to the APNU AFC coalition government. Now, I am not an economist. I wish that I can have an economist on to break this down for you guys. I don't know. They got guys like Winston Jordan and these other guys. The former, what is it? The former minister of. Sorry, the former minister of finance. You would be the best person to answer this particular question, to break it down for you guys, because sometimes that is what it calls for, breaking things down for you, the layman, including myself, and to prove to all of you, and including the PPP supporters, that the economy grew 14.5% as a result of what happened during the last year of the APNU AFC government. Now, next year, when you talk about a mid-year review of the economy, then we will be talking about the installed PPP regime. And then you will be able to see that the economy didn't grow. In fact, it dropped. Next year, you will see that it dropped to maybe 7 point something percent. That is just how it's done. So I want you guys to be able to praise the APNU AFC for that in terms of what you're seeing here. Economy grew 14.5%. Sorry about that. 14.5% as a result of the coalition. And now, what else is in the news that you guys want us to talk about briefly? As we say, it's Midday Gaff, and Mr. Sam Hinds came on to gaff the Midday Gaff with us. The other thing is now, Middle Street. We're hearing reports that Middle Street, they want Middle Street, to be renamed the Mahatma Gandhi Street. Gandhi Street. I see a lot of talks about it. A lot of people are commenting about it on social media. But what is your take? What is your take on this particular situation? I'd love to get your take on this. I'd really love to get your take on this situation about Gandhi. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about Gandhi. Remember, he went to South Africa maybe in the late 1830s. He spent about He spent about 20 something years in South Africa. And when the apartheid struggle started with Mr. Nelson Mandela and his guys, Gandhi actually didn't want anything to do with that. He didn't want to be part of the black struggle. He didn't want to be part of the black folks who were standing up and fighting against the oppressed system there in South Africa, the apartheid system. He just didn't want to be a part of that. And so if you have read the history of Gandhi, you realize that he got upset when he went in an all-white carriage and sat, because he was a young lawyer, supposedly brilliant young lawyer, had on his nice suit, three-piece suit. So he thought that he would have been accepted by the whites, and he went in that white carriage to sit. And they told him no, that he can't. He has to be removed. And he didn't like that. So they removed him from that carriage and placed him in the colored carriage. And I think it wasn't so long after he decided to head back to India and call it a day. He threw away all his Western-looking clothing, suits and every single thing. And that's when he started to wear his Indian outfit, dhoti, and so forth, and kurta. And so that is Mahatma Gandhi. I can understand why some folks feel that the renaming of Middle Street to Gandhi Street is an insult, because that road, that area historically is where a lot of the freed African, quote unquote, folks who were enslaved were hung. They met their deaths right there, brutal deaths. And that entire area actually was fought, and it was a lot of blood, African blood, and so forth and so on, spilled in that very area. So folks are seeing, rightly so, they're saying that it's an insult to rename that street Gandhi Street. It is an insult. And so we will be having more and more debates on this particular situation. On this particular situation. I see some of your comments here. Someone says here, Carol Lewis is saying she likes Gandhi, but not acceptable. She likes Gandhi, but not acceptable. We see here now Mr. Ilundia, sorry if I'm pronouncing it. Mahatma Gandhi is not a Guyanese, so renaming of Middle Street is out of order and a disrespect to us. But let me just remind you guys that Mandela also is not a Guyanese, but Mandela Avenue renamed after Nelson Mandela. But before that, they used to call the dump site Mandela, until people like yours truly protested, and Hamilton Green, who was the mayor then, I met with him, and that's how they just removed that name, Mandela dump site. But Mandela has more of acceptable naming of any street, because Mandela really did a lot in terms of the struggle against apartheid and oppressed systems and so forth and so on, compared to Mr. Gandhi, who fought against the British system, the British Empire, and so forth. This is not to ridicule his struggle at all, but to rename a street after Mr. Gandhi, that is up for big debate at this point in time, because a lot of people are not taking too lightly to that. I see some folks, saying Mandela was a fighter. Of course, Mandela was a fighter. So I don't know how this is. I don't know how this is going to play out at all. Somebody saying name part of Port Morant, rename Babujan, Gandhi. All these things we are going to see. But I think it's a deliberate attempt by the PPP to basically try to frustrate and disrespect persons of African descent. Again, it is a very ticklish subject, but folks are entitled to their opinions, and I have just shared my opinion, which has to do with to rename Gandhi. Why not rename it Hoyt Street, or why not rename it Elias Street? Why not rename it Evans Street? Well, there is an Evans Street, or Beat Swizzler Beat Street, or something like that. But I'm not sure that it's not a nice pill. It's a very big pill, and people are not prepared to swallow that pill at all. Renaming the street Gandhi Street. That is Middle Street. For those of you who are not from Georgetown, you probably wouldn't know where Middle Street is, because I know some country people going to town for the first time, they ensure that they walked with their boots, their rubber boots, their rain boots, whenever they were going to Water Street. And so that's a true story. A lot of those guys. So let's take the debate. Yes, the debate in terms of the renaming of the street. Some people have their views. Some people may say yes, and depending on who those folks are. We know most of the folks at Freedom House, if not all of them, will say yes. Let's ask J.R. Crawford's opinion on that. Or I see Mr. Gladstone Matthews. Good point. Or Ben Shop Street. Well, there's a big street and big highway, and well, not highway, lots of streets named after my relatives out there in Suriname. So it would be nice to rename Murray Street, Middle Street, Ben Shop Street, or even Crawford Street. JR, what's going on?
Good day. I'm here just relaxing.
What is your take on renaming Middle Street instead of Gandhi Street, Crawford Street?
Well, first off, we have to look back at what Gandhi showed towards the black people, and when you revisit history, it's a disturbing thing that has been unearthed recently. And he came across as a racist. So how can you do that? And what has he done for this country?
What is your, if you were to go into the minds of these folks in this installed regime, what do you think might have pushed them to want to even suggest that renaming of the street to Gandhi Street?
We are seeing a total takeover based upon racial mindset of this current administration. They're trying to cover everything for this that this country had in its history, and everything that they're going on is on a racial basis. Nobody's trying to name anything after our freedom fighters or great scholars that this country has produced. If you look at the behavior, conveniently, certain people and their progress or their contribution to this country are being suppressed, and that's a way to wipe out history and for the younger generation not to know their roots. So these things that they're proposing should be fought hard by the people, who have an honest mindset not to allow these things to happen to our country.
I don't know whether
I for one do not appreciate those things.
I mean, this has nothing to do with the contribution of Guyanese, all Guyanese, that is. But for them to just hop out of the blue to want to even suggest to rename Middle Street Gandhi Street.
Mr. Gentleman, you said it has nothing to do with the contribution. I said yes because if they want to remove Middle Street and name it something else, why not look at the Guyanese who have contributed somewhere along the line to positive growth in this country and name Middle Street after them?
No. I'm agreeing with you, actually, that it doesn't matter if Middle Street is renamed Prasad Street, Swarswati Prasad Street, or Crawford Street. once is a Guyanese. Yeah.
That is my point. Because Guyana, we have to stop thinking of this damn external places where we came from. As we are Guyanese, we need to focus on what we have done for this country and stop tying ourselves to shores that we are not welcome at.
You know, one of the things if I do get a chance to interview the Indian High Commissioner to Guyana, His Excellency, I would ask him if he would consider renaming one of the streets out there in Delhi, Burnham, or Rodney, or Hoyt, or even Ben Sharp or Crawford. You think that there's any remote possibility of that happening?
That will never happen. So why are we allowing foreign entities to control how we operate in this country? We are educated enough to do the right thing and to show respect to the people that have done so much for our country. We can honor them in different ways. But to go and start to say that you're going to name the street after Gandhi, for what?
Well, I suppose...
Recently, there was a statue of him being taken down in, I forget what state in the United States of America. Because when you look back at what this guy has done behind the scenes, and he spoke with a forked tongue. And given enough time, I could send you the documentary.
I guess, yeah, I have seen a lot of documentaries and read some books on him as well. So I am very familiar with Mahatma Gandhi and his utterances. But I like some of his generation, his folks, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, and Rahul Gandhi, and the whole Gandhi clan that ran, that dynasty that ran India through Nehru. Now, moving on from Gandhi, let us touch on this controversy, this young man, Clarence Green, whom the police want us to believe that he actually confessed freely. What is your take on this whole saga?
Mark, it shows the biasness of the police department. It shows that they are being directed. In the court of law, you have been through it a lot, and I have a little knowledge about it. That forced confession will not stand up in the true court. He has to have an attorney present. Whatever methods they're using for these confession, it's not going to hold up too. Why don't they tell the general public why they have taken away the evidence by removing everything that was there that was burnt? You know. And go piece of sponge. Either the rest of people could have been police.
I guess we're getting a bad connection. JR, we're getting a bad connection.
The police would things upon you to get action and then try to threaten you. And if you're not smart enough, you'll stick to it. And, you know, it's the same thing with the Henry Boys. You remember?
Oh, yes.
They came with a confession, and then there won't be a conviction because, you know, it's forced.
It's forced indeed.
So where they're going with this, it will not go anywhere. Mr. Green is going to walk away from that accusation because really and truly, they know who did it.
All right. I'm sure they're familiar with, or they may have gotten other information. But the police force, the Guyana police force, seem to just want to keep covering things up, covering things.
Not all of the police, you know, like you said, don't paint everybody with the same brush.
Well, the ones responsible for, you know, the detective works and the ones in various divisions and so forth. That's just
Someone
what it is.
told me that there is a plot for the transformation of Georgetown. So the wooden eyesores have to be taken down.
Well,
that's what somebody said.
Exactly. We are hearing that as well. Not sure how accurate it is, but Mr. J.R. Crawford, thank you so much for your time. We know that you're no stranger here, and it's just a midday session that will come to an end shortly. It went on a little long because our good friend Sam Hinds, who is the ambassador, Guyana's ambassador to the U.S., took up a considerable amount of minutes chit-chatting.
If I may, this is a perfect opportunity for Mr. Hinds to redeem himself. I do hope he makes the best of the opportunity, if his conscience lets him be.
If that is. JR, thank you so much. Don't be a stranger. We'll get you back soon on 107.1 FM. Thank you.
No problem. Good day, everybody.
Sure. Good day, JR Crawford, our reporter, so to speak, our guest, so to speak, our contributor, so to speak, reporting from Guyana, Alnis Village. Alnis, I'm wondering, where did they get that name Alnis from? A lot of villages on the quarantine, they were named basically their Dutch names. And I'm wondering whether Alnis is either Dutch or maybe British, whoever, But maybe we should have a petition to rename Alnis Village, either Crawford Boulevard, Crawford Village, or something of that sort. I don't know yet. Maybe we should do that. Let me just quickly ask. Sorry about that. I see a call that came through that maybe we should ask a couple of minutes of this gentleman to quickly explain something to you guys. I wouldn't say what the gentleman's name is but getting back to this Alnis Village, should rename it Crawford Village, Benchcap Village, Singh Village, because Singhs are some nice people there. David Singh, opposite the Alnis Coca, or Bechan, or Gray, or Parks, or Stewart. Just rename it something. Or Benchop, of course, but Gandhi, I don't know, man. It's to me, it's an insult, and every day, like this regime, they continue to insult Guyanese. They continue to insult the intelligence of all of us, whether Afro, whether Indo, whether whatever, though. It's just a continuation of this inept, incompetent. I don't know, Mr. Jordan, you're not yet on the air for a quick minute. I just wanted a quick comment about what this paper is saying about the economy grew 14.5%. Do you wish to give us a couple of minutes of your time, sir? Yes, go right ahead. Thank you so much. You're on the air. Talk about this economy grew 14.5%. And let me just let our listeners know that we have the former Minister of Finance, Mr. Winston Jordan, with us. Good evening, sir. Go ahead. Good afternoon.
Mark, good afternoon. Right. Okay, so the growth of 14.5%, as you can see, was mostly due to the petroleum sector. One thing your audience must recognize is that half-year growth is measured half-year to half-year. It is not measured from January to June 2021. It is measured from June 2020 to June 2021. And if you remember well, January to June 2020 was when we had all the consequences to do with the elections and so on, when nothing much was going on. And also when COVID had now started kicking in and the economy had begun to regress because of the measures that we had to put in place. Okay? Compare that now to January to June 2021, where a number of the measures have been relaxed. Businesses are all about open 100% and so forth. So you put in a bigger growth, a bigger increase on a low base, and that's effectively how you got your 14.3%. But I think the important thing what most of us
should be looking at is the non-oil growth. Because remember, the orange sector, where most of it is being extracted, is being kept by the extractors, and we get very little of it. Right? What the oil sector brings is the spin-offs, and that is what is driving the non-oil growth in the economy. So the non-oil growth was put at 4.8% at the half year. But importantly, that same non-oil growth for the rest of the year will decline to roughly 3.7%. And even though we're not measuring like with like, what it tells you is that the economy is not growing without oil, is not growing at the pace which we would like, or at which these people would like you to believe that it is growing at.
So, we want to thank you for breaking that down because, of course, the propaganda machinery for the PPP would want to give this false impression that the economy grew under the PPP for the past year, which is not accurate.
No, well, Mark, I don't put on the road. The economy did grow. The economy did grow. Growth is 14.something%. When you include oil, it is 4.8%. When you don't include oil. But what I'm indicating is because part of that growth, or a big part of that growth, was the fact that during 2020, January to June 2020, nothing much happened as a result of the elections and as a result of COVID and the measures that we had put in place. So by January to June 2021, when almost all the measures had been relaxed, businesses are back into play and so forth. It's like if you have, it's like just to give your viewers a little thing. If you have 5 today, and next year same period you have 10, then you know you have grown by 100%. Okay, but in the next period, if you grew by to 15, your growth is only 50%. You understand?
We got you.
So when you come in from a low base, growth is sharp. But as that base begins to expand, growth then begins to taper off and begins to get low and low in terms of percentage. And that is what happened here. Because you were going on a low base last year, you have this 14.something%. And even that 14.something% is lower than what they had anticipated. Even that 14.something. And they're now blaming it on the floods and all kinds of stories. Okay?
Floods and the pandemic and everything. I got you.
And the pandemic and everything, yes. Yes.
Quickly, what else is bothering you on the ground there in Guyana, apart from the economy and the state of affairs? What else is bothering you, sir?
I think what really is bothering me is I would call it a demarche on making this country into a lopsided one race country in terms of the measures that I see that are putting in, and none more so, well, two more so than this reckless statement made by the High Commissioner of India in relation to the Gandhi contempt that has taken place in the Promenade Gardens and the area around it about renaming that area. I think that is an extremely reckless statement to have been made at that thing, and I will deal with it later on. And I think Jack Bill going up to Berbice and doling out $250,000 of taxpayers' money to a set of people who have already benefited significantly from the severance pay that we paid, nearly $5 billion worth of severance pay that we have paid to that group of workers, the innumerable training and other programs that we have put in place, and doing upward time, and since this government has come.
I'm glad that you mentioned this 250.
Jack was not going to hear.
Yeah.
And I believe Jack was not going to hear the last of this 250,000 that he has doled out partially to this group of workers. I already that's not done well, not from the standpoint that Guyanese citizens shouldn't benefit from something. But when you begin to put that level of partiality into play, I believe you will get the kind of opposition that hopefully should be coming in relation to this announcement.
Were you surprised at all when he rushed to Borbies to give them that?
Yeah, I was surprised. I was surprised at this stage. I was surprised at this stage because one, we are in a combat the effects of the pandemic. We have a situation where schools are still not open properly. We have a situation where we have not spent enough money on broadband, internet, on iPads and computers, school supplies, and so on to make certain that the bulk, if not all, of our children are being given teaching 5 days a week. We have not done that. We have a situation occurring at the Lilidad Hospital where the nurses, how little they are getting. We have deaths occurring at that place, like if it's a slaughterhouse. And I want to say up front that I'm not blaming the staff there. Right? I believe they're working beyond the call of duty. But I believe that we're not paying close and proper attention by diverting as much of our resources really in a free fall, where the more deaths that you announce is the more both relaxation in terms of gazetting and in terms of implementation and policing of the measures that you have in place. Now you hear the Minister of Health is going to write businesses about into their businesses. You think he's going to get anywhere with that? You really think he's going to get anywhere with that from this business-friendly, so-called business-friendly government? I don't.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Go on, smart.
Mr. Jordan, thank you so much for your time, though. I appreciate it, even though it's an impromptu. We just wanted to get your quick comment on the economy, according to them, the growth of the economy, and you gave your opinions on a couple other matters. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Yeah, no problem. No problem, Mark.
Appreciate it. Mr. Winston Jordan there for you guys, no stranger, just gave us his opinion on a whole host of things in just a few minutes. Did a far better job. In fact, we've learned something from Mr. Jordan as opposed to the other individual who just was basically trying to cover things up. And you guys know that individual. Certainly not J.R. Crawford. I see here somebody saying happy 64th anniversary to the PNC. Yes, happy 64th anniversary to the PNC. They have celebrated yesterday, October 5th. And that's the birth of the PNC. And as you know, there was a split. The PNC was, prior to being renamed, it was PPP. There were two PPPs back then. When Mr. Burnham walked away, he was chairman of the PPP that he helped to fund with Chetty Jagan and others. And so they had a disagreement. And Mr. Burnham and scores of others walked away, and they had their own PPP. And so I believe, somebody can correct me with the date, maybe 57 or something like that, it was renamed. Do the math there, sorry. It was renamed PNC. PNC, it was renamed. So Burnham's faction of the PPP was actually renamed PNC. So 64th birth anniversary to the People's National Congress. I've noticed Mr. A friend of mine, I see he's on Facebook, 57 years he spent as a member of the PNC, all these guys. So Shelly Ann, yes, we see your comment and we acknowledge what you have to say. We see some of it's too early for trench crappos to be coming out of the trenches, but we see some of them. Janet Johnson Phillips, happy birthday, belated to you. What else? What else can we do? What else can we say? But you guys will have to go in front of the Indian High Commission's office and register your concerns. Those of you who are in Guyana, to register your concern about the fact that they want to rename Middle Street as a suggestion, because Mahatma Gandhi celebrated his birth anniversary on the 2nd of October. October 2nd was his birth anniversary. And so the Indian High Commissioner made a speech in commemoration of that anniversary. And that's where he suggested the renaming of Middle Street, I believe, if the story is correct, the renaming of Middle Street to that of Gandhi Street. I don't know. I've got to go, though. It's just my couple minutes turned into more than a couple minutes, but I'll see you guys this evening. Have a splendid rest of the afternoon. Somebody asked about the situation with the young man who the police claim that he gave them a confession. Now, in other news, we're hearing suddenly, because something that they've ignored, there's now going to be an oxygen plant for the COVID-19 hospital soon. That's according to the Minister of Health, soon. And we don't know what their soon mean, but we can just assume. Also concerning the Essequibo businessman, Mr. Orrin Boston, who was murdered by members of the SWAT team, according to the news here, no word from police on murder probe of Essequibo businessman. Absolute businessman. No word at all. None whatsoever. Just what is happening in Guyana. The police, as you know, they're upset by the lawyers who went out from Hughes, Fields and Stobie law firm, attorney Ronald Daniels and attorney Jefford, Kiswana Jefford. The police issued a statement to say that their 3-hour plus meeting with their client is basically politically motivated, and that it's an opportunity for them to spread all sort of propaganda. And that is according to the police press release. Shame on the police force. Absolutely shameful indeed. They have been silent since then. Since yesterday, they have been very silent because they know that they have been caught with their pants down as it pertains to the so-called confession statement made by that young man. As we all know by now, it appears as though that confession statement was made under duress. If you're in Farm East Bank, on the East Bank, Farm Village, I believe that's what it's called, right? Farm, and you turn your water, even though billions of dollars being spent to the folks at GWI, which is headed by Sheikh Baksh. You guys remember Sheikh Baksh? He was once Minister of Housing. He was once Minister of Education, and he's now the Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Water Incorporated. This is where, and this is how they spend billions upon billions of dollars. But yet the people, just a stone throw away from the capital of Guyana, this is what they have to experience in terms of water. See you guys this evening, 9 o'clock. Pray for Guyana.
That little ditty we used to torment our teachers with when we were kids goes something like this. Onward, upward, Mary had a go. Day by day she tied it to a rope, till at length they got past the rope, and Miss Mary had to run behind it. We had a lot of fun with that, but do you actually know how beautiful these words are? Here's the Song of Guyana's Children by W. Hawley Bryant. Born in the land of the mighty Roraima, land of great rivers and far-stretching sea, so like the mountains, the sea, and the river, great, wide, and deep in our lives would we be. Onward, upward, may we ever go, day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana's sons and daughters can be. In the land of Kaijur, shining splendor, land of the palm tree, the croton and fern, we would possess all the virtues and graces, we all the glory of goodness would learn. Onward, upward, may we ever go, day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana's sons and daughters can be. Born in the land where men sought El Dorado, land of the diamond and bright shining gold,